Today, on the Barricade Guard Show, I am joined by my wife Rebecca to discuss our marriage, why marriage is important, and some things we've learned along the way. The mission of the Barricade Guard is to fortify your soul, body, and family. And if God has called you to the married life, then strengthening your marriage is an integral part of fortifying your family and your soul. And since my wife and I just celebrated our 15th anniversary, I thought this might be a fun opportunity to have my first guest on the show to talk about our marriage in general, and share a bit of our personal journey with you along the way. So with that in mind, did you like to kick it off by sharing how we met?
Sure. We met at a Christmas party through a friend of a friend. It's a random chance, and if it wasn't for that one moment, we probably would have never met each other.
And so fast forward a little bit, what do you think it was about each other that made us realize that we were the people that God was calling us to marry?
Well, at the time, I was Southern Baptist. I wasn't Catholic, and I was asking him questions because I knew he was Catholic, and he was the first person to really challenge me in my beliefs and kind of push me places where, I wasn't really wanting to go there on my own. So I felt myself growing with you as the relationship went on, going deeper with my relationship with God, and something I never experienced before.
Yeah, no, it's something similar for me. I mean, I was born and raised Catholic, but I think Rebecca was one of the first people to really question me, especially as an adult. And I had, kind of fallen into a lukewarm at best, that's probably being generous to phrase it like that, practice of my faith during high school and college. And so through our relationship, I saw here was an opportunity. This was somebody that was leading me closer to God. And as I was trying to share the Catholic faith with her, I was becoming more on fire for it. And so I saw this as a relationship that was growing closer to God instead of, further away like I had been for a number of years. And as the relationship progressed and that faith deepened, and we moved, became more serious and more seriously talking about marriage. I think that kind of gave that solid foundation that we saw being something for the future. Mm-hmm. So do you want to tell a quick, brief story of how we got engaged?
So we had our first year anniversary in February. It was around Valentine's Day. And so John planned this nice dinner. We had looked at rings. He started talking a little bit about it, and I knew we were going to a really fancy restaurant. So that it was, I remember it being a Sunday, because I remember not wearing a ring to Mass that day on my left hand. My left hand at all. I wanted, just in case, I wanted to have that hand completely free. But it's still a complete surprise. We had a nice dinner. And he gave me a beautiful photo book that he made of our entire first year. And then all of a sudden he was down on his knee with a ring, and I said yes. But
the excitement of dinner, the butterflies in the stomach turned into a different feeling in the stomach after dinner, didn't it?
Yeah, I got food poisoning. And I didn't have health insurance at the time, so it was a little bit scary, but everything worked out. It was still a wonderful day.
We had the nice dinner, and then she called me a few hours later in the middle of the night in a panic about whether she should go to the hospital, because we were trying to figure out, since she didn't have health insurance, how we should handle that. So
everything worked out. We're good.
So one of the reasons why marriage is important, both for this life and the next, is that marriage really is the building block of society. There's a famous quote from Pope St. John Paul II where he said, "As the family goes, so goes the nation, and so goes the whole world in which we live." I know there's a quote you wanted to share as well.
Right. Sister Lucia had said that the final battle between the Lord and Satan is going to be between the marriage and family. So it's really important to build up your families now.
And so if earthly marriage is supposed to image that ultimate union that we hope to share with God someday in heaven, then obviously it's important for us to model and image that kind of heavenly love to our children now through our marriages and through family life. We want them to be attracted and drawn towards God through our marriage and through family life, not pushed away from him because of having a bad experience. If I as a husband and a father, give them an image of God that makes them feel repulsed or like they want to turn away from me, they might project that onto God. And so obviously we want to project to them a reflection of that heavenly love.
And also for the salvation of the spouses, because you're going to be receiving many opportunities to show self-sacrificing love, and to learn about yourself and your faults, and those are going to come up to the surface, and it's going to give you a chance to repent of those and grow in holiness and help each other grow in holiness.
And so even in a natural sense, Studies have shown that children raised in stable families with both parents have much better results intellectually, behaviorally, psychology, and in almost every measure studied.
And it's good for the spouses because it promotes well-being and stability.
And speaking from a Catholic Christian perspective, one of the things that we find very appealing about the church's teaching on marriage is the understanding of the permanence of marriage. So the church teaches that when two Christians are validly married, the only thing that can end that marriage is the death of one of the spouses. And so for some people, they might think of this as kind of a negative liability, but we actually find this to be very freeing.
Right. It's so reassuring knowing that we're in this together. Divorce isn't an option. Separation is an option. When you make those vows, it's permanent. And so you're always going to work together. So that's, for me, just such a freeing thing.
Unfortunately, kind of the secular desire for no-fault divorce and being able to just kind of easily start over has influenced many Christians even. And so I think this has led to a lot of, especially non-Catholic Christian communities, kind of creatively interpreting Jesus's words to permit divorce and remarriage, and what might start out as kind of maybe to just address certain hard cases, when it comes down to practical applications, kind of in many cases has become just an open-ended permission to divorce and remarry. And so this is one of the reasons that we have been so passionate about wanting to be involved with marriage preparation ministry. We know what the benefit of the excellent marriage prep that we received, and we want to be able to try to help share that with others, and to help engaged couples to understand kind of the meaning and significance of the commitment that they're about to make. And so what would you say are some of the blessings that we've experienced throughout the years of being involved with marriage preparation ministry?
I love meeting all the couples. We meet so many different kinds of couples, and it's so neat to see them start, from the time we meet them until the time they leave us, the growth in their faith.
Yeah, and I think also getting to experience cooperating, even if it's just in a small way, with the Holy Spirit, and being able to try to share with the engaged couples the beauty of God's plan for love and marriage.
So what do you think we did well during our marriage preparation?
Well, prior to our engagement, especially during the early part of our relationship, unfortunately, I would probably say not much. I think we were both still coming out of that lukewarm time in our lives. And I think if I was going to say anything we did well, it would probably just be allowing God some little room to start to pour grace into our lives through whatever little cracks we were giving him. Fortunately, I think us starting to respond to that, even in just small ways, set us up for a better engagement period.
Right. When we were engaged, we made an honest effort to genuinely live out our faith authentically.
And so if we could go back and do it all over again, what do you think we would do differently? And to start with, let's think about before we even got into a relationship.
I think we should have developed our personal relationship with God first, and then also got comfortable being single, and then decided or discerned if the marriage vocation or any other vocation was for us, because neither of us did that. We just kind of met each other and liked each other and wanted to hang out, and then it kind of developed from there. I think we should have, started off with the discernment process of is this even worth for us spiritually?
Yeah, and I think it also would have helped if we would have had more of an appreciation and understanding for the purpose of marriage before we even got in a relationship, so that we could be entering into a relationship understanding we're okay if things did progress and move forward towards marriage. We want to be having a relationship and building it in a way that was setting us up for a successful marriage.
And what would we do different once we were in a relationship?
I think I would say two things. So first, safeguarding each other, and second, trusting God. So when I'm talking about safeguarding each other, I'm thinking about recognizing that if we really do care about each other, even prior to marriage, just in the relationship, we should really want what's best for each other, which is ultimately heaven. And so if that's the case, I think we would have done a better job of both of us not putting each other in situations that could be tempting to sin. So I think we would have done a better job there. And then in terms of trusting God, I think we were both coming out of a time in our life when, I was earlier in my career, you had just earned your master's degree and had started a new job, and we would have had a hard time seeing too far into the future. Maybe we kind of had a vision of what we thought an ideal Catholic family life might look like, but trying to see how we were going to get there from where we were right then was a little bit difficult for us still. We had come along in our journey of faith, but we weren't, completely trusting. I mean, we still obviously have work to do and to be able to completely trust God in all those ways. But I think those are probably two things that stand out, that if we could go back and do it again, we probably would do better with those things.
I agree. So now that we're 15 years in, what things are different than what you expected them to be when we were first married?
Well, I think I would say two things. First off, when the baby started coming. So I think everybody expected that, they knew we were open to life. And I think we expected that we would get pregnant almost immediately after we got married. But our first daughter, Maria, wasn't conceived until we were married for about a year. So I think that was one big thing. And that was maybe a challenge that we'll talk about in a future video. But the other big thing I would say would be our nutritional style. When we first got married, I was very much a meat and potatoes guy, a cheeseburger and a wings guy. And not that you were into those things per se, but, we were both eating a kind of
cheese.
Standard American diet, yeah. But a trainer at the gym kind of got me turned on to a whole food, plant-based approach to nutrition. And I was, in this mindset of wanting to do the best I could for me and for our family and for our children. And so I think, that transition from pizza and wings to smoothies and soups was a little
drastic.
Bit of an adjustment period, yeah. So those are probably two things that were different. I'll put a link below to the video I did on our nutritional style if you want to check that out. And if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice on our wedding day, what would that be?
Prepare for sacrifice. One thing I've learned through this vocation of being a wife and a mom, every day is you have to die to yourself. You self-sacrifice. I wouldn't say, oh, get your sleep before the kid, before the babies come, or spend some time together before the babies come. I would say prepare for sacrifice, because that's what this vocation is. And the earlier you learn that, the easier life's going to be.
Okay, so we're 15 years in now. What do you think we do well, and what do you think we can improve on?
So our personalities are complete opposites, and we can create a good balance with each other. There's areas where I'm strong in, where you're weak, and there's a lot of areas where I'm weak and he's strong. So when we work together, it creates a good balance and good harmony.
Yeah, we have very different personality types and temperaments and spiritual gifts. I think when we looked at the different types of temperaments, we were like the exact polar opposite. So the things that we do well, when we kind of harmonize those different gifts and bring them all together and bring out the best of each of them, sometimes we can do really cool things together.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, probably our biggest opportunity for improvement is when we fail to achieve that perfect harmony. Sometimes my black and white perfectionism and your
scattered impulsivity
can sometimes lead to more conflict than harmony. So we've gotten a lot better at that over the years, but still haven't mastered it quite yet. So
one day
we'll get there.
So 15 years from now, where will we be?
Oh boy. We just had our oldest turn 13 this year. So I'm not quite ready to start thinking about wedding days just yet. But to be honest, in 15 years, we could have 3 or 4 kids that are married or preparing for marriage or religious vocation. We could even be grandparents potentially. So we'll just take one step at a time.
And I'm done trying to figure out what's going to happen. So I just take things day by day as they come.
Yeah, we'll just trust God and see what happens. So we thought it'd be fun to wrap up with some rapid fire questions. So to start with, what is your favorite book?
So I love to read. So this is like asking me to pick a favorite child. But hands down, Jane Eyre, because she always says and does the right things.
And for me, I will go with The Spiritual Combat by Dom Lorenzo Scopoli. I first read this book during a time in my life when it was just very convicting and hard-hitting and empowering and kind of made me feel motivated and ready to go in the spiritual life. So I'll stick with this one. How about your favorite movie?
Rocky 2 will always be my favorite movie. The love story between Rocky and Adrian. I just love it.
And I'm going to have to take 2 movies here to do one in the spiritual category and one in kind of just a fun sense. So for the spiritual favorite, I'll go with A Man for All Seasons. But in not the religious category, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. All right. Who would you like to play you in a movie?
I think Drew Barrymore when she was in The Wedding Singer.
And because I'm such a fan of The Dark Knight, I'll take Christian Bale from The Dark Knight, but kind of that more mellow, reserved Christian Bale, not the one that gets really angry on movie sets. All right. How about your favorite saint?
So I have 2. My favorite one to have a devotion to in spirituality, definitely Saint Therese. But if I were to be able to meet one and have a conversation, a sit-down conversation, definitely St. Teresa of Avila, because she's just so smart and witty and just amazing.
And for me, I'll go back to a man for all seasons and take St. Thomas More. His ability to be able to defend the truth and see it through to the end, and his defense of marriage makes him a winner in my book. So I'll stay with St. Thomas More. How about your first job?
So I was a camp counselor when I was 15. I worked at a summer camp that I attended when I was a child, so that was always fun.
And my first real job was at McDonald's. I had some odds and ends ones before that, but that was the first one where I was really getting a steady paycheck. Our kids like to laugh at me for working at McDonald's because I'm so into health food now that I probably wouldn't go into McDonald's for anything other than using the restroom. But after a year of working there, they told me I did a really good job and that I was going to step up from minimum wage to a 10-cent raise. So I took my talents about a mile down the street to Taco Bell and thought I was really moving up in the world to earn an extra quarter an hour. So there we go. All right. What is something that you aren't very good at?
So I'm not very good at time management. I often get tied up in something that I really enjoy, and then I don't do the things I'm supposed to do, and I think I have more time than I do, and then I have 6 kids who need me. So time management is something I definitely struggle with.
And I am not good at singing. The Flynn men are blessed with notoriously bad singing voices, although I try and try again. I can do higher and lower volume, but not different notes so well. Although on a more serious note, Rebecca would probably say that I'm not very good with empathy. I have a very kind of black and white perfectionist attitude, so empathy doesn't come naturally to me, but I'm working on it. And if you could have one superhero power, what would it be?
To be able to stop time. I say that all the time. I would get so much more stuff done if I could just stop time, but I would have to be the only one who could move around. Like that show when when we were kids.
Which superhero could stop time?
Superman.
Are you going to fly and spin the world backwards?
Well, he did it.
That's not the science. All right, I'll take one of Superman's real powers and be able to fly. I've had some really cool dreams where I could fly and stop on a dime like Superman, and wow, that would be great to do in real life. Speaking of superheroes, join me next time when I'll discuss superheroes and invite my kids to share their favorites with you as well. Do you have a marriage pro tip that we didn't mention? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone that might benefit from it as well. It really does help out me and the channel. Don't forget to follow the Barricade Guard on Facebook, X, and Instagram. And until next time, fortify your soul,
body,
and family.